Welcome to the Finding Families podcast, where each episode we explore different cases from our files. We identify and bring together family members with those they may never have known. Mostly we look for unknown birth fathers, where the magic of DNA brings much needed answers for searchers. I'm Louise Baldock, and this episode I'll be talking to Chris and his newfound brother Bob about their search. You look alike, don't you two? You look alike.
No, I'm better looking.
Yeah, and he's a lot younger than me.
Yeah.
Louise, you can see how well we get on.
Yes, good. I'm glad.
Thanks to you.
Oh,
Yes.
it's wonderful. It's so wonderful. So, Chris, perhaps you might like to tell us a little bit about what it was like growing up and what you knew or you understood about your family.
Yep, okay. I was born in 1950, apparently adopted when I was a couple of months old. My adoptive mother died in about 2012, and my adoptive father died a long time before then. When I was about 18, he died of cancer.
Oh, dear.
Yeah, it was after my mother died, my wife, Jan, and I decided that we'd try to find out who my birth parents were. Reason we didn't try before, well, several reasons really, I guess. I don't think my adoptive mother would have ever spoken to me again.
Oh,
We had a bit of a love-hate relationship, I guess, and she didn't really talk very much about my adoption. So I think it was a bit sensitive.
yes.
But anyhow, after she died, we tried to find both of my birth parents. And I guess the journey from 2012 onwards has been a phenomenal success story. Quite a shock, really, to both my wife and our two kids. Got a daughter and a son, both grown up now with their own families. Been quite a shock to them that the families get on so well. Anyhow, back to 2012. The first stage, we had to contact a social worker in Plymouth, which is where I live. And we had about an hour's interview. This is my wife and I. And I think it was quite peculiar, really, that she was trying to assess whether or not we could accept the information about who my birth parents might be, which looking back on it was quite peculiar, you know, given to 70-year-olds.
I think that's, to be honest, that's pretty standard. So that the law changed some years ago, as you know, to allow adopted adults to access their adoption file.
Yeah.
But in order for you to access your file, the guidelines suggest that you need to be supported in that, and your birth family also need to be supported at the other end of the inquiry, and that should be done by a professional social worker.
Right.
And they act almost as a counsellor or a therapist at the same time, really. So instead of just saying to you, here's your file, get on with it, it might be that your file has some shocking revelation in it that you will need support with. Or it might be that your biological mother or father would need a lot of support, even contemplating meeting you, depending on the circumstances. So that's why, I suppose, I mean, it does seem odd that you have to go through that, but that's just as a kind of making sure that everybody's going to be okay.
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense. Anyway, after talking with the social worker, around about 2 or 3 months later, we went to see her again, and she'd got my adoption records. And basically, all it said at that stage was a one-pager which gave my birth mother's name, who was Nina, which in the 1950s wasn't a very common name.
No, it's quite unusual, isn't
Yeah,
it?
and the reason I say that is it really helped us find out a little bit about her. Didn't give her father's name. Once I knew her name, we started to do some searching on one of the family genealogy sites, Genes Reunited. And one evening, Jan, my wife, and I were developing the family tree and got a phone call from our daughter, who's a lot faster at these things than me. And the phone call went along the lines of, "Hey, I think I found you a possible sister."
Wow.
And that was a sort of aha moment when Linda, our daughter, phoned. She had been doing some searching on Genes Reunited, which was the same family tree that we were developing. And luckily, the person that turned out to be my half sister, Jean, had also done a family tree on Genes Reunited, and the system put the two together.
That's brilliant, isn't it?
Yeah. So a couple of days later, after some discussion, Jan and myself and Linda and our son, I decided to put a message on Genes Reunited to Jean. And it started off, there's no easy way of saying this, but I think we both have the same mother. And then a little bit more about who I was and why I thought that. Anyway, there was no response for 7 days. And then got a message back from Jean, and this is a quote, and it said, "OMG, oh my God. I really don't know what to say, Chris. I'm in total shock. I knew nothing about this. What the heck have you found?" Exclamation mark. Anyhow, that was the first contact from Jean, and then the rest is a very, very nice story of getting to know each other. I think to begin with, Jean and Paul, who's her husband, thought that it was probably a scam.
People often think that, it's funny, isn't it? I don't know what they think you're going to get out of pretending to be their family, but people do think that.
Yeah, we agreed to meet. This is probably after 20 or 30 messages and several phone calls. About two months later, we thought, wouldn't it be a nice place to meet in Solihull, which is where Jean was brought up as an only child and where my birth mother lived. So we met in a hotel in Solihull. We both agreed we'd stay there for a couple of days and met each other. And I think Jean and Paul, although they were very nice, they were pretty suspicious of Jan and I to begin with, which, as you say, Louise, is possibly quite usual. And I think if something had come out the woodwork, if I had been brought up as an only child, and suddenly someone said, "I think I'm your brother," I think I'd be in shock as well.
Although I think your mother married Jean's father when she was much older, like I think she was about 40 when Jean was born. So you would think that Jean might have thought that she might have had a bit of a history before she married her dad. Why?
Yeah, Nina had me when she was 30 and then got married when she was 35 to a guy called Arthur, and then had Jean when she was just 40. So, yeah, you're right. But as we've got to know Jean, she's looked back at her time as a child and can remember a few instances where she now thinks her mother might have hinted at having another child.
Right.
But at the time, she didn't think anything of it. We communicated really well. We've been on holiday, 3-4 times together?
Oh, that's lovely.
Yeah, the families get on really well. One of the really nice things with my birth mother's family side, we got invited to a family meal about 6 years ago now. The family tended to get together at Christmas every year, about 10 of them, for a meal. And Jan and I were invited, which we thought was really nice.
Yeah.
And we've been to every other meal since. Got one coming up in 3 weeks' time. After getting to know Jean, both of us did DNA tests. And we came out about, from memory, about a 99.5% probability of sharing the same mother and almost 0% of sharing the same father.
Right.
And I think for Jean and her family, that was really a turning point that, DNA doesn't usually lie.
You did this test, and that satisfied Jean that Nina was your mom. And of course, you'd also been able to show her, presumably, your birth certificate where
Yeah.
Nina was shown as your mom. So,
That's
unless
right.
somebody was pretending to be your mom, that was pretty straightforward, wasn't it?
I'm very good at forging documents like birth certificates. Yeah, so that strand was really well. And as I say, Jean and I and the whole of Jean's family get on really well. Anyhow, around this time, I did a test on Ancestry and a DNA test on MyHeritage. And the real reason for doing those was to try to find who my birth father was.
Yes.
We got loads and loads of living relatives from both the Ancestry and the MyHeritage DNA tests. And from memory, somewhere in the region of 400 living relatives, which I think, Louise, you've looked at some of those. Anyhow, that led Jan and I, and we spent ages on this, on and off. We built 3 pretty large family trees from those DNA matches. I looked earlier this evening, there's about 2,000 people on those 3 trees.
Yes.
So they're quite large. The interesting thing was one of the trees that had round about 40 DNA matches of living people all went back to a family called Shakespeare. Obviously not William.
Oh, it's a great name, though, isn't it?
It's a great name. I gather none of William Shakespeare's family alive now.
Oh, I don't know.
They all died out. Yeah,
That'll be a little job for me to go and look up later.
yeah,
won't it?
we've looked at that. But anyhow, one of the interesting things that came out of the DNA match from Ancestry was it showed up another half sister on my mother's side.
No,
Yep,
not Jean. A different,
not
other
Jean.
one.
Another one that no one seemed to know anything at all about. And this person now is called Miriam, a person that was adopted at birth and was born 11 months after me. She was born in 1951. My Ancestry DNA test showed that she was a very close match,
Yes, that's amazing.
which was quite a shock.
Okay, I'm trying to imagine what Jean's going to make of this. In my mind, I'm thinking,
Don't even do
wow.
that. We obviously got in contact with Miriam and went to see her. Well, we talked and actually went up and stayed with her for a few days to get to know her and the family. But because she'd been adopted, she knew who her birth father was, but they didn't want anything to do with her.
Right.
But because she was adopted like me, it wasn't a shock to her at all that she'd
Yes.
got a half brother and another half sister. But as you said quite rightly, Jean was in shock yet again.
Yes, I'm sure she was. Now, this is 2 secrets her mother's kept from her.
That's right. And then Jean and Paul, her husband, David and Miriam all met up in Lincoln, 2 years ago now, and we all got on like a house on fire.
Oh, that's good, isn't
And
it?
you could actually really see the likeness between Jean and Miriam.
Oh.
There was a real likeness. But anyhow, the really positive story is we all got on well. And since then, Jan and I organised a couple of Christmases ago a family get together for about 25 of us. And it was amazing. We spent 6-7 hours together in a pub in Oxford. And it was basically people that had never met each other, families that were all linked. And ever since then, it's been great.
Oh, that's lovely, isn't it?
Really good story.
It is. Of course, what you didn't say, but I should just say, was that Nina had died some quite long time ago.
Yeah,
So
she died
she
a long
wasn't
time
around
ago.
for anybody to be asking about any of this.
No. Now, we've actually found two people that knew me as a baby or knew Miriam as a baby. One is someone that used to work with Jean, who's now 93, 94,
Wow.
and a relative on my mother's side who's a fantastic 90-year-old that's got a brain like a 20-year-old. And they both, now we've got to know them, remember Nina having a baby.
No.
And they also remember her meeting a man in a red sports car.
Oh, that's exciting, isn't
Yeah,
it?
at the end of the road.
If you can have a baby, you want to have it with a man with a red sports
That's
car.
right. And putting two and two together and probably getting five, we're pretty sure that that man in a red sports car was actually Bob's father and my father.
Wow.
Yeah, quite a bit of evidence there.
Yes. So, how exciting.
But the little bit before we bring Bob in, we found on the family trees that there were two outliers that we couldn't find a link. So we had three family trees, all with DNA matches on my father's side, but they didn't link anywhere. And we're pretty sure, and this is where you might come in, Louise, again, because we've got a bit more information now. We were pretty sure that one of the outliers who live in New Zealand and another one of the outliers that live in the USA actually linked across to Bob and my grandfather.
Yes, that's right. So, your father was born illegitimately, and there were two DNA matches that you had who both had unknown grandfathers.
Yeah.
And it's pretty clear that was the same man in all three cases. So,
Yeah.
one man has had three children, all with different ladies, one of whom emigrated to Australia, one of whom emigrated to New Zealand, and one of whom stayed in Birmingham where he was conceived. I mean, he might have had others that we don't know, but those are the three
Right.
whose descendants have taken DNA tests and have matched with you on those databases. So I don't know whether you could go away and tell them, but that man's name was William O'Connor, and he probably came from Donegal in Ireland, probably about 1899, and it might be possible if you were to examine all of the DNA matches of all of his grandchildren, you might be able to pinpoint which O'Connor family he came from because you'll have different matches between you.
That would be great.
Because the Irish have emigrated to America, New Zealand, Australia, and England, their descendants are very interested in learning more about their links to the old country. So they take DNA tests in large numbers.
Yeah.
So you tend to find that people who are still living in the country that they've always lived in aren't rushing to take tests, but people who've emigrated or their descendants anyway often think, I'd like to find out more about our roots. So you will probably find that there are O'Connors around the world now, the descendants of his brothers and sisters, for example, who will be taking tests.
Yeah. Well, this is really good news, Bob, isn't it?
It's all very, very, very interesting to me. We're listening to you talk. And with regard to Mr. O'Connor, I actually recall my late sister asking our nan who was our dad's dad. And she just looked up into heaven. Oh, I can't say that. I can't answer that question at all. And that was as far as we got. It was a big no-no. And my mom said, "You never ask that question. You can't do it. You'll upset your nanny."
And now we might have answered it.
Yeah.
So, all being equal, you were both O'Connors from Donegal.
Oh dear. That's
Yeah, I
lovely.
thought I was actually. I like a pint of Guinness.
That's it. That's it.
I thought it was 3 pints.
Well, it depends on the day.
Yeah. No, it was funny when Bob and I first met, we were talking about this possibility, but Louise, you've got a lot further. There's two very funny ones here. The New Zealand branch that we've been in contact with quite a lot. The lady that's alive that we've been in contact with is head of the Salvation Army in New Zealand.
Wow.
And surprisingly, she lives in a little village called Lower Hutt, which is just outside Wellington and probably a few hundred meters away from where our daughter used to live in New Zealand when she was there working in the electricity company 15 years
Wow.
ago.
Wow.
And even stranger, the people in the USA, Heather, married into a tribe or family called the Wampanoag. I've got it written down. And they were the tribe that welcomed the Pilgrim Fathers into America. Now, a few years ago, we had in Plymouth an exhibition from the Wampanoag tribe in our museum here.
Because they left Plymouth to go to America.
That's right. And talking to Heather, we think that one of Heather's daughters made some of the material that was on display in Plymouth. How about that?
Madness. What an amazing connection.
I know. Almost unbelievable. Yeah.
We have these connections with our family. Then if we don't know who our family is, we don't know we're having these connections.
No.
It's remarkable.
Going back to the main story, this is blowing your trumpet, Louise. Because we hadn't managed to find who my birth father was, one of my ex-work colleagues and friends said that this person called Louise from Finding Families had been very, very helpful in finding her father. So we contacted Louise and, cut a long story short, got a hell of a long report, 5 pages of really comprehensive detail, which, being a very ex-scientist interested in sort of scientific method, was really impressive because it took us through the search methodology that Louise's colleagues had used and came to a final conclusion which indicated that my likely birth father was a guy called Dennis Davis.
That's right, indeed. It was Nadine that wrote the report for you, if I remember rightly.
Yeah, that's right.
Yes, she always does a very good job, and it's important that some people read every bit of the report and want to understand how we've arrived at it. Some people just skip to the conclusion on the last page, wanting to know who their father is.
No, we spent probably about 4 or 5 days updating our family tree from that report.
Wow.
So, no, it was really good.
So, yes, your father was Dennis Davis, who
That's
was
it.
born in Birmingham to the aforementioned William O'Connor, as it happens, in 1924.
Yep.
Well, that's where we got to. And then we had to find out what happened to him, and we discovered that he was single when you were born, still living
Yep.
with his mother, in fact, I think.
Amphilis.
Yes, that's such an amazing name, isn't it? I've never hardly come across it before. Say it again.
Go on, Bob. You'll be better than me.
Yeah.
Amplis.
Amplis.
Amplis, yeah.
It's a lovely name. So he was still living at home with his mum, Amplis, but then he went on to marry Heather and have 4 children.
Yeah.
I don't think when we gave you the report that we told you about Bob, because he was born in a different registration district. Everything else seemed to have been happening in Shropshire, kind of close to where I was born, so I recognised the registration district. But I think Bob was born in a slightly different place, so we didn't pick him up because when you're looking for the children of a Davis and a Jones, there's millions of them, How do you know which ones are relevant?
When we met Bob for the first time, Bob, I think one of the things that Jan and I said was that you must be a hidden person because we couldn't find anything about you.
So yes, we told you then that Dennis was your father and that he died sadly not long after Nina actually, but that he did have some children, and then we referred you to Glesney, who is one of the social workers that we were talking about before, who help people to contact their birth family. And you could tell us what happened there. How did Glesney get on?
I think this is probably where Bob and I need to bounce some stuff around.
Yeah, definitely.
Because they didn't find out who I was, I think Glesney at first sent letters out to my late sister's son.
Right.
Yep, that's right.
And also my younger brother. My other sister, who is actually living in Australia, so she was never contacted.
No.
And they must have held on to this information for some time, wondering who it was. When they eventually got hold to me, they said, look, we've had this letter from Ancestry, somebody claiming that our dad had another child. And, I thought, oh, it's always a shock, isn't it? You do not expect that. Yeah. So anyway, I went to my youngest brother and I said, have you been contacted by anybody? And he said, well, I sort of had a letter and I couldn't understand it and I thought it was a bit of a hoax, so I threw it in the bin. And that was his answer. I said, are you sure about that? He said, yeah, I can remember it could be. And he said, I said, I wish you'd told me. So I then rang the number to Glesney, I think. And I said, I am the eldest, or I thought I was the eldest son of Dad. Well, turns out I've got a bigger brother. I said, yes, I'm willing to contact you or whatever it was. And she said, well, do you mind if you do a DNA test? I said, not at all. So I was still wondering what on earth's going on here. It's something that never dawned on me. And eventually the DNA test come through. I did that, which was just after this Christmas just gone. And I sat there and waited. I think 3 weeks. I can't remember now. Is it 3 weeks it takes?
No, longer. More like 5 or 6, Bob.
Yeah, well, yeah. It seems such a long time ago now. And of course, the test come back saying you have a biological brother, Chris. And I thought, oh, great. I got lost for him to do.
And that I think is when you left the country.
Yeah. I said, where was you when I was at school being picked on? Always wanted a bigger brother, and he wasn't anywhere to be found. Terrible. Anyway, so we took it from there. So we waited then until, obviously, Chris had been informed of our relationship. 2 brothers, Dad and Nanny. And then we then made a arrangement to meet up after a few telephone calls. And we was coming down this year to Cornwall for a holiday and also to visit an aunt down there. And Chris said, I know where we can meet. I know where there's a good steak. Naturally, my ears pricked up. And I said, I'm all for that. And then we met at this lovely, which I can't remember the name of the place now, Chris.
It was called the Dartmoor Inn in a place called Merivale.
Yeah, you've never tasted such a delicious, juicy steak ever. And I thought we went on from there then.
Yeah, and we got on.
And we did get on straight away.
The sort of thing that really amazed me, I said this to Louise earlier, was it was a real shock how well we got on.
Yeah. Dad would have been proud of us, mate.
Yeah, and there were so many sort of similarities in our life.
Yeah.
The saddest one, we both got diagnosed with diabetes at the same age.
Oh.
Yeah, incredible.
Yeah.
That's our dad for you.
Yeah. No, it was really great to have a younger brother.
So from there on, was it like, Star was great.
I think that's brilliant.
It's wonderful.
Bob, have you been able to Tell Chris a little bit about your father.
He went to the Blue Coat School.
Oh, did he?
Yeah.
Very good.
He took us there when I was about probably 5, actually. My other sister was in a pushchair. He said, I'll take you back to my old school where I was educated. And it was at the Blue Coat School. We got there. There was a house there. There was a gateman. And he remembered Dad straight away.
Wow.
After all, probably back in the sort of the late, probably 59, 60. I'm not quite sure. We had Nan with us as well, but we had a tour of the Blue Coat School. There wasn't anybody about, but Dad spent most of his from 10, I think, and we managed to pick up some information from the local library after Dad died, and we found out that he was signed in by some vicar, I think, that our late nanny knew.
He must have been a very clever bloke, Bob, because you only go to the Blue Coat if you're clever. I mean, I think it has selective entrance. You usually have to pass an exam to get in.
I couldn't tell you that, but what did occur to me when we was looking at all these boys' names is a lot of them were illegitimate.
Yes.
Yeah, we've done a bit of digging on that one.
Yeah.
And somebody, and I can't remember the name now, left quite a lot of money so people that were illegitimate could get a good education.
Well, that's very nice.
It is very nice.
Yeah, although the school certainly recently charged thousands a term, though I don't know whether it still exists, but certainly there were quite a lot of bursaries for people that were illegitimate. So that might be where our dad came in.
You still have to be bright there. They wouldn't just take any
definitely.
child.
No, it was very selective. So he must have been a bright guy.
Interestingly, well, I found him on the 1939 register that they took at the outbreak of the war. He was working at Cadbury's. Well, I presume he was. He was a chocolate worker, anyway.
That's it.
I never knew that.
Yeah, so in 1939, when the war was declared, they had to take a quick inventory of the population so that they could work out who they could conscript, what kind of work people were doing, how much they might need to do in terms of ID cards, gas masks, all of the planning that you would imagine. And at that time, Amplis and Dennis were living in Borrowdale Grove, it looks like, or Barrowdale Grove, yes.
Yeah.
And Dennis is down, first of all, as a chocolate worker. That's all it says, chocolate worker. And his mother, a laundress.
That's right.
And next to one of them, but it's not clear where the line is written, it says ARP. So either Amplis or Dennis was volunteering to do ARP work, which obviously in Birmingham would have been no small task.
That would have been his mum, Amplis.
Yes.
Because she was a nurse on the ambulances in Birmingham itself. And I think Dad must have joined the Navy then.
Right.
Not long after that. Is that a date in there? I know he's in the Navy on the Fleet Air Arm.
We haven't got anything for that. So that in terms of naval service in the Second World War and army service, it's not really publicly available because it's covered by 100-year rule. But if you know a little bit, I think as you're the next of kin, I think you can write to the National Record Office in London and ask them. But I suspect that they would say that they'd like a bit more, especially if you're going to say, I'm interested in somebody called Dennis Davis. They're going to say, we've got a million of those. We'll need to know what, when did he join up and stuff.
Yeah, I knew the ship, because he had his old hats. He was in the Battle of the Atlantic all the way through, I think, until he came back to Londonderry for a rearms fit or whatever they did, and so forth, until he demobbed in Shropshire.
Well, you may well be able to find out a bit more then, as the next of kin. For ordinary people like me, we can't look at his records because it's too private.
Yeah.
What did he do after the war then for a job?
He worked for Lucas's, and this was in I'm assuming there was a Lucas factory there, I believe. And so he was there for some time. Him and Mom had some bedsit or flat, or call it what you will, with this other lady who they paid rent. They eventually went back and said hello to her. Well, we stopped in the car. They moved from there because Dad tried to join the union and he got the sack.
Oh no!
That was
Oh,
it. So I'm pretty sure then that I remember being at my nanny's at Barradale Road, but I also remember being at my mum's parents' bungalow. So in between the two, I think that the dad was searching for work. He got it anyway. Nanny then, who was no longer helping, was like some sort of insurance collector in Northfield, in that area there. And Dad did a bit of work like that because I remember him working for a factory in Telford, and then he went on to be an area manager for the same firm as my nan. And I can't remember what the firm was called, but then he left that, and then he eventually went to Sankey's, where he stayed until he retired.
Very good. I bet. I mean, they must have all been pleased to have him, mustn't they? Everywhere he worked, as he was a
Yeah.
hard worker and he was clever.
Oh, yeah.
They'd have all been very pleased to have him.
Yeah, he put a lot of hours in. I think it was Glinwed, it was called Glinwed Foundry or something. And then there was Sankey. But yeah, he was never out of work as long as I can remember. But yeah, hard-working man.
funny, there's a couple of very tenuous links there that my adoptive father used to work at Lucas in Birmingham.
Ah, so it's his fault. He sacked him.
That's right. Could be.
I knew there was a link.
And the other funny one, we would love to know where Nina and Dennis met.
There must have been some sort of dance hall or something in Birmingham or wherever it was.
Yeah, could have been. We wondered whether they knew each other in the war, going back that far.
I would have thought it was more likely to have been something that happened in 1949 when people were.
Yeah, I think so.
They were coming home, they were getting demobbed, they were sorting themselves out, they were settling back into civil life.
Nina worked in Birmingham from 1945 onwards after she'd come out of the whatever she was in, and worked in a company near the cathedral in Birmingham.
They probably met at a dance or something.
Yeah, that was where often it happened.
Yeah, they were just two young folks, weren't they? Relatively young.
Well, Nina was 30, so not all that young.
He was a toy boy then.
Yeah, that's it.
He was a toy boy.
Yeah.
I thought he was all this time. Yeah, I knew it. I'll answer that question as well.
Yeah. No, we'll probably never find out.
No, that's a secret. It's gone to heaven.
Yeah, although in 2 weeks' time we're meeting the relative that knew me as a baby. So
that'll be lovely.
Now we've met Bob, we might be able to pump her a little bit with a bit more information.
So does this mean that Bob thinks that Dennis did have a red sports car? Then?
Well, if he did, he never gave me a ride in it.
No. Damn.
Well, that is interesting, that is, because he was always keen on cars. And I can remember, I was probably 3, I suppose. His first car was an Austin 7.
Yeah.
Which I believe was bought by our Nan Chris anyway for him.
Ah, right. So he might not have had a red sports car.
He could have borrowed it, though. I mean, if he was working at places like Lucas, then he would have been working in and around cars, wouldn't he?
Yeah. We think, and no real evidence for this, but we think the guy with the red sports car was probably Miriam's father.
Oh, that's a shame.
Yeah, that's another story.
I don't want him to be Miriam's father.
One of the things that we go to check up with Jean, my half sister, is last time we went and stayed with her, she finally got round to going in the loft of their house. And got down for the first time our mother's case of belongings. And we spent 2 days going through this case and found loads of pictures. And Jean is pretty sure on reflection that one of the pictures is Bob and my father.
Well, you better get a copy of it for Bob to look at.
Yeah.
Then he'll know, won't he?
Jean's going to do that. She hadn't got round to it yet.
Well, that would be amazing if she can say, here's some pictures that Nina was holding on to all her life, and Bob can say, well, that one's my dad.
Bob's given us some lovely pictures of our dad, and I shared one of them with Jean. And Jean immediately said, I've seen that picture.
Oh, wow.
So next time we meet her, we're going to persuade her to go back in the loft and get the case down again. Because when we looked through the case, we didn't know what we were looking for.
No. It sounds like it was an actual relationship rather than one night at a dance, then, if she had a photograph of him.
Yeah, who knows?
Mm.
How
Yeah,
interesting.
I can see Spielberg getting in on this information.
Yeah, me.
Oh,
It's amazing,
lovely.
Bob.
Hey?
Yeah. Oh, that's great.
Well, thank you both ever so much. I wonder if there's anything that you thought you were going to say to me that you haven't said that you might want to say.
I think I'd just like to say again, thanks ever so much for making this happen. If it hadn't been for you and Glesney, I'd have never found Bob.
Yeah.
And Nadine, of course.
Yeah.
And we must mention Nadine.
Yeah.
And you look so alike as well. I wonder if you looked alike when you were younger. Have you looked at photographs of each other when you were younger?
And we've looked at photographs of our dad as well.
Oh, yeah, there's definitely a likeness there.
Yeah.
My daughter said, Chris has definitely got granddad's eyes.
Oh, that's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's amazing because we obviously showed pictures to our kids. And Linda, our daughter, looking at, I don't know how old our dad was in that picture that you gave me in a frame.
No, of course, probably.
But Linda looked at it.
Early 20s. Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah. Linda looked at it and said something like, bloody hell, that's Ian, who's our son.
Yeah.
Oh, so it's followed all the way down through the generation.
Yeah.
I wonder if you all look like William O'Connor as well.
That would be interesting if we could find photographs of him.
Yes, well, maybe we will one day.
Yeah, we're going to do some more searching there.
Exciting.
William O'Connor, our grandfather.
Yeah. Did you want to say anything, Bob, before we go?
No, but thank you, Louise.
Okie dokie. Thanks ever so much, folks.
Okay, bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Take care.
This has been a Finding Families production with music from Lisa Hoyle. If you have a birth family search that you would like our help with, please visit our website, which is www.findingfamilies.co.uk. Goodbye.